Welcome in to the Gaming Discourse. I am Tyler Fritter alongside Richard A. the Cruz, who is not here today, and Chief Engineer Lieutenant Commander Connor Fritter.
We gain one, we lose one.
It is February 7th, 2022. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at the Gaming Discourse. Go to our YouTube channel, YouTube/Gaming Discourse, where you post videos. The Gloomhaven video is the latest video. Sorry, I think I just heard...
Me rubbing my sock against the carpet.
That's what that was?
Yeah, that.
It sounded like someone was revving a chainsaw outside. Anyway, go watch the Gloomhaven video. Turned out pretty well, I think, and I enjoyed making it. Working on the Halo Infinite, a video about Halo Infinite right now, which I'm going to talk about Halo Infinite here in a second. We do have some news, although not a ton of news. There wasn't a ton of stuff going on, I guess. At least not news-wise.
At least in the video game world.
In the video game world, yeah. Okay. So, well, Connor, go ahead and start us off. What have you been playing?
So, I've been playing... what was that game you had me playing earlier?
Is that the only thing you've...
No, no, but I wanted to talk about that one first.
Okay, it's called Easy Red 2.
Easy Red 2.
It's made by a single developer.
It feels like Battlefield 1942, only worse.
Battlefield 1942 is bum 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 bum. This game is...
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah.
Not the greatest World War II shooter.
No,
not.
So it's like a Battlefield.
Yeah.
You spawn in a couple classes, and you capture objectives, but it is jank.
It is very jank.
It is very jank. Yeah.
AI is kind of stupid.
Very.
Very stupid. I don't even know what to say about it besides it's bad.
Yeah, so it's made. I think it's made by a single developer. It's only like $8.
Okay.
But it's a lot of stupid fun. You can call in artillery strikes.
Yeah.
The AI will call in artillery strikes
liberally,
indiscriminately. So it's like, oh, I see an enemy 10 feet in front of me. Dog, Gadaf, we got enemy, we got a tango's 15 meters in front of me. Fire full salvo over, and then like 5 seconds later, 2 squads just get taken out by just this huge salvo of artillery.
An entire fleet of battleships just opens fire.
Yeah, it's actually kind of hilarious. So that makes taking objectives hard because there's usually enemies at objectives, and so the AI's like, call it all in, baby, broken arrow. Yeah. I'm sorry you're not having a good time with it. It was $8.
Yeah.
It's co-op. You should pick it up. You can eventually drive tanks and do some tank combat. Yeah. You're flying an airplane. You became an ace.
Yeah, I got a fighter ace because I shot down a couple planes.
Yeah, so good job there. Congratulations.
Hell yeah. Other than that, excuse me, I've been playing Dying Light 2.
Okay. Big release this week.
It's not that impressive.
That's interesting that you say so.
Yeah. After playing Dying Light, and then with a whole bunch of other open world zombie games coming out, I don't think Dying Light 2 does enough to stand out other than being a sequel. The only thing that's like memorable that comes to mind is when you're in the city, you can activate windmills, kind of like radio towers in every other game. And then they form little factional settlements that are like save points that have like the UV lights on them and shops.
Sure, yeah.
And the only other memorable thing is when you're going through one of the like tutorial areas where it's teaching you how to like loot and how to climb and stuff like that, how to use like the detective vision so that you can find stuff to pick up and loot. There's a record you can look at, like a vinyl, and it's "Hoodoo Your Voodoo."
Oh yeah, which is
a reference to Dead Island.
Yeah. Which is their first open world zombie game. Mm-hmm. It was bad, but I think it was successful.
Yeah,
way before Dying Light.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. I'm not sure if they're set in the same universe or what. I don't know.
I think loosely, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, it's a lot. It feels a lot of the same. Some of the combat feels a little bit smoother than the first one, but some of the parkour feels a bit clunkier than the first one.
That's disappointing because the parkour in the first Dying Light was some of the best parkour in any game ever. Like, it's phenomenal.
Yeah. When you're out in the world, you can find armor, weapons and armor to wear, and the armor really implies that it wants you to play in co-op, because it'll have a little indicator on the armor set. Like, I have a first responder shirt that I'm wearing that gives me like health regen and stuff like that, and on there's a little shield icon for a class and a cross in it, and it says like, this is recommended for someone doing a healer build. And it's like, well, if I'm playing solo, I'm not going to be doing a healer build. I'm just going to be, optimizing for a single character. So the way it presents items to you, it feels like it's trying to get you to play co-op.
Well, I mean, that's one of the big things about Dying Light. It was the idea was it was an open world co-op zombie game. And the big drawback to the first one was that the last mission you couldn't play in co-op, which was really dumb because the entire game you could up until that point.
And the last mission was just a QTE.
Yeah, it was bad.
But yeah, I've put 3.5 hours into it so far. I know it's not a lot of time, but that's enough to get you into the open world.
Okay.
And, run around, start doing some of the just open world stuff, finding buildings that are full of zombies during the day that somewhat clear out during the night. It during the tutorial, it implies that they're a lot less populated at night, but that's not the case. There's still a fuck ton of zombies inside there at night. So there's no point in waiting till nighttime to go into the buildings. You could just go in during
the more dangerous zombies still out at night?
Yes.
Okay.
And they're in the streets, and then if they'll follow you into buildings if they can get in and whatnot. But I found a really good way of clearing out buildings during the day.
What's that?
Well, there's like second story windows that you can go in through, and you can kite zombies into those windows and then just kick them out of the building, and then they fall to their death.
Okay, well, I guess that's effective.
Yeah. I got hit like maybe 2 times doing it, and I killed maybe 30 zombies that way.
Nice. Right.
Yeah, so it's a really effective way of clearing it out if you could find the right building. Not every building has second story windows, but a lot of them do, because, of course, being a parkour game, it's very vertical.
Sure.
I think one part that stands out as being an improvement from the previous installments parkour is like comboing moves, like running from a building, jumping to a pole, swinging from the pole to another pole, swinging from that pole onto another building. That feels a little bit smoother, but going from ground up onto building, climbing building, feels really clunky. Even going from like ground, car, siding of like a building or whatever, and then up onto a window ledge, it feels really clunky.
Okay, that's too bad.
Yeah. Again, I haven't put a ton of time into it. Maybe I just need to put more time into it. But if initially the parkour, which is kind of a focus of the game, isn't fun, and you have to grind to make it fun, I feel like that's just bad game design.
Okay. It's funny that you mentioned that, because today I was playing Halo Infinite. And one thing that popped into my mind was how fun it is to move around in that game. Master Chief and Halo Infinite it's not a super parkour, obviously. But with the grappling hook and having no fall damage, there's a lot of fun stuff you can do just zipping around that map. And the Master Chief, you can, whatever it's called, not grapple, but climb. There's like a specific word for it. But yeah, I was thinking that today. I was like, it's actually fun moving around this open world, and it's just with the grappling hook. So I finished Halo 5. I went back and I wanted to play Halo 5 and finish that. And then I went and I'm doing another playthrough of Halo Infinite for the video that I'm going to make about it. I don't really know what the video is going to be about. Halo Infinite exists in a weird state in my mind because as I play it, I have a ton of fun. Like it's just such a fun game to run around the open world with. You save Marines, you equip all the Marines with rocket launchers or whatever. You run off to a base, you attack the base. I mean, it's really cool. There's a base where it's like a prison, and so there's Marines that are, they're like the chains that they wear are like electronic, like lightning chains, attached to like a generator thing, and you destroy the generator, and they get up and they fight with you. So it's this there's these really like awesome prison break things that you drive up to the gate of some banished prison and you zip on the other side, open the gate, and then the gate opens and your Marines are running with you, and it's like a really fun raid, on a banished base. And as you're going through, you're breaking the other Marines off their chains, and then they're fighting with you. So it's like really it's awesome.
No kings, no masters.
But the whole time that I'm playing and I'm having a ton of fun, I'm also thinking it just feels hollow in a sense, because I wasn't a fan of the end of that game, and I'm not a fan of its story, partially because of where it goes with Cortana being the villain. So I think one thing we have to acknowledge is that making Cortana a villain wasn't only a mistake; it was just dumb. It doesn't make any sense. It's bad writing.
They allude to like stuff like that can happen when an AI exists for too long.
Because she goes rampant.
Yeah.
The idea is, and this started in Halo 3, that AIs can only live so long before they start to break down.
Yeah.
And she started to show signs of that in Halo 3, and it has to partially do with her encounter with the Gravemind in Halo 2.
Yeah.
So that's partially sort of what happens. And Cortana has always been portrayed as like a goddess type thing. Like she's really intelligent. She sort of learns mysteries about the universe. She's not omniscient, but she can figure things out really quickly, right? So she's sort of she's on a different level than just your standard like AI, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I understand Cortana in the nude. Some people roll their eyes at, because the male gaze, and it's like, of course, the one female character that's there is going to be naked. And I get that. I think that's a fair criticism. But at the same time, it is interesting because as a goddess, right, it's kind of like the flip side of Dr. Manhattan.
Yeah.
Where Dr. Manhattan does it, and I think Watchmen sort of portrays it in a way that he's like above humanity. Like he doesn't need clothing because he's this perfectly sculpted. He doesn't need clothing because why should he feel ashamed? He's so much above humanity, Anyway, but she's different, I think, in a way. It's not that she's better, it's that she's just transcendent, or, she's sort of a goddess, and that fits in with the rest of Halo's, not illusions, references, I guess, to religion, right?
Yeah.
John 1:17, so John 1:17, the Covenant, heretics. There's all kinds of religious text and subtext in Halo. So when... I lost my train of thought. Oh, so making Cortana a villain just doesn't make sense because after she sacrifices herself, that's a really interesting direction to take the Master Chief's character, and Halo 5 just completely fumbled that. And playing through Halo 5, I went through it, and Halo, if you strip away the narrative, Halo 5's gameplay I think is really fun. There's a lot of fun sequences. When you get to go to San Helios or whatever it's called, where the elites are from, there's a fun little sequence where you're saving the Arbiter, and you come upon the Arbiter, and he does this cool thing where he like kills 2 enemy elites, and he's like, "Hello, Spartan," right? And it's kind of neat. But that's all held up by a really bad story.
Yeah,
with characters that you just don't care about. You don't care about Spartan Vale. You don't care about Spartan Locke. And maybe you would have cared about them more if the story wasn't so bad. But one thing that I was really surprised about in Halo 5 was that you don't talk with Cortana until a good distance into Halo 5. And Cortana's first lines are like she's reaching out to the Master Chief, right? But her first actual like substantive pieces of dialogue are she's already Crazy Town cultist leader Cortana, right? So her whole progression from sacrifice, okay, she's gone, to somehow resurrecting and becoming a cultist slash fascist who wants to instill a police state
slash God.
She makes that whole jump off screen, which if you're gonna make that jump, you kind of wish you got to see it.
We've said it a lot here that major plot points should be in the main media stream.
Yeah, and I don't know how to. I said this last week, but I forgot to set the mics right, so I cut all my stuff out. But I don't understand why it feels like video games have to bow down to, extended universe bullcrap. And I don't mean to be like rude or obnoxious, but it frustrates me because when you grow up with characters and you care about them and you're really fascinated by their story and the themes of their stories, and then in Halo Infinite, how did the Banished get to Zeta Halo? I didn't know, so I looked it up, and lo and behold, there's a book that explains how the Banished got to Zeta Halo, and it's just like, okay, what the hell, so now this major question. Maybe it's in a recording somewhere that I haven't found yet, but still, it's like this major plot hole question that I have that the game never addresses is in a book somewhere, and it's like, why? I feel if you start as a video game, and your video game is the main avenue through which your IP is recognized or whatever. I don't know how to word that correctly, but you know what I mean. Why be beholden to, with all due respect to the author of the books and stuff like that, it's like, but that's not what this franchise is about. If you had to read a book to understand one of the Star Wars movies, one of the mainline Star Wars movies, that would be a disservice, you would think, right? If you had to go watch a TV show or a movie somewhere to catch up on a book series, I think people would be understandably upset about that. Because that's not what the series is. And stories change when you take them and plant them into different mediums. Because different stories can be told in different mediums, right? Yeah. You can't have an omniscient narrator in Halo unless you want somebody narrating the entire game. In which case you have to know, someone's going to know how the Master Chief's thinking at that, but that's not the way the Master Chief has sort of been. Yeah. So anyway, that's the mess you get into. So I don't know why video games have to bow and I think it's partially because nerds want the books they read to be referenced in their video games so they can be happy. I don't know. That's cynical and it's rude, but it's frustrating. And when I play through Halo Infinite, it just becomes more frustrating because, you can tell that they struggled to figure out what they wanted to do with Halo 5. Halo 5 was such a horrendous left turn that it set Halo Infinite in a really bad spot. And Infinite tries to set the franchise on a new track while at the same time closing the book on Halo 5. And I never think we get a proper resolution to the end of Halo 4. The end of Halo 4 is good on its own, but you never get to see the Chief figure out who he is or what Cortana's sacrifice means, because the first thing you see him doing in Halo 4 is he's with his Spartans who happen to be alive, and he's out doing missions. And there's a vague reference to the Chief's doing a lot of missions, as if he's in mourning or something. But then Cortana comes back all of a sudden, so then the story kicks right into Cortana's a villain before you know it. So you don't really get to spend that much time with the Master Chief while he's being characterized in that way. So all that, I don't know. There's more to get into with the Banished, with how they got to Zeta Halo, how everybody got to Zeta Halo, where the UNSC, like what happened with the UNSC. So much of Halo Infinite is about what happened before Halo Infinite, and that's infuriating because it is not filling in a mystery, right? It is we need to fix all this so we can get to this so that we can do games on this going forward. I'm
trying to remember.
So Infinite is beholden, right? It is in service to how do we bridge the gap between Halo 5, which is a travesty unknown to man beforehand, and Infinite, How do we bridge that gap? We just do exposition. And then how do we bridge the gap between Infinite and the future of Halo? Just create brand new bullshit. And here's the new shit you have to shoot, you know? And it's just like, it doesn't feel inspired. It doesn't feel natural. It feels incredibly, I don't know if contrived is the right word. Forced, I guess, is one word for it. But it's just really disappointing. Because, you know, I'm not saying it would be easy, but I think my preferred route would have been, okay, find a way to retcon Halo 5. Why be beholden to that? You know, when something goes so bad, figure out a way to reverse it or fix it instead of trying this half measure where you honor it while going against it, and then while trying to set yourself up for something else. And that just creates a lot of mixed emotions, and it ends up making a story that just feels kind of empty and about things that aren't happening on screen. So that's where I am now with Halo Infinite. Maybe after I finish it for a second time, I'll feel more optimistic. I'll feel better about it. I don't know, but that's where I am. There's still some fun lines of dialogue. There's, you know, the Master Chief still talks more and stuff like that. So it's great to see him with a better characterization and in his more talkative manner carrying over from the last few games. But it's just, you know, it's, I don't know. It's frustrating. It's frustrating to see that. I think sometimes games have this tendency to care more about lore than narrative, right? Lore is just information.
Yeah.
Just history. Can lore have meaning? Can it have themes? Can it tell you about the universes where they are now? Yes. But when you're so worried about filling in just gaps in history, and it's just useless, like historical knowledge, you're not telling a story. You're just writing history, fake history, which is fun. But like, you know, Halo, the mystery of Halo was not about what happened in the past. That was part of the history. I mean, that was part of the mystery. But the mystery was what these were and where you were going, what was going to happen once you figured everything out. And that's what drove, and you discovering the flood and all that, and that's what makes Halo just such a phenomenal story to experience. That's another thing in Halo Infinite is Halo Infinite goes out of its way to try to lend that sense of mystery and you know, this cosmic mystery to Forerunner Ruins, right? Which was present in the first Halo.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's like you're walking around these ruins that are incongruent with their surroundings, because you have these hard steel ruins that are really Spartan. There's not a lot of things. See what I did there?
Yeah.
But they're surrounded by trees and forests. They're overgrown, right? So it's this really interesting juxtaposition, and that makes them feel sort of holy, or I don't know, divine, otherworldly, right? And that mystery was great. And in Halo Infinite, they try to recapture that. And you know, the 10-year-old in the back of my head is really excited for that, but I know it's kind of superficial, because we know so much about the Forerunners now. We know so much about where the story is and where it's going and stuff like that, that it's just like, now it's, I don't know, is there still a mystery there? Sure, but now it's like you have figured out the major plot devices, so whatever mystery is left is, I guess superficial is the best word, right? Because now it's just like, there really isn't one. It's going to be written eventually, you know, because we need to make Halo Infinite 2 about the endless.
Halo Infiniter.
More infinite, which I guess mathematically speaking, there are infinites that are bigger than others or whatever. I don't know.
No.
Yeah, there are bigger infinities. I thought this was a thought experiment. So okay, well, yeah, I thought this was a thought experiment. What's bigger? All the numbers between 1 and 2 are all numbers.
They're equal.
But there's a finite number between 1 and 2. See? because they have endings.
No.
Well, this is a legitimate thought experience. I don't. What do you have something you want to say?
I was gonna say earlier. I'm trying to remember. I've been trying to remember the writer that gave this piece of advice. It's been given. It's not exclusive to them. It's just I'm trying to remember who said it. But if the story you're telling me isn't the most interesting part, why aren't you telling me the interesting part of the story? And that's kind of what it feels like with Halo 5, because we have, or Halo Infinite, because you have all the alien, you have all the Covenant there, and then you have, UNSC there, and you have, bits and pieces of information strewn about how they got there, but we don't know like the full story.
Yeah.
And it's why wasn't that either part of the game or a game in itself?
Yeah. And that's the huge structural issue with Halo Infinite story is so much happens that you are not privy to before the game, right?
Yeah.
So the question then becomes, okay, well then how do we fill the player in on all this stuff that happens? And it's like, yeah, that'd probably be difficult, which means the entire structure to Halo Infinite, the entire foundation is broken because it's all residing on this huge stuff that happens prior to it. And yeah, you can find recordings around, but that's not, I don't know, that's not the same as experiencing the story.
It's not, the recordings aren't the interesting part of the story. The interesting part of the story is being there, witnessing it, taking part in it. In Combat Evolved, Halo Combat Evolved, you have mystery right off the bat when you come out of slip space, and there's the giant halo in front of you, and it's like, all right, we're missing like a large part of this story. But then you start to experience it as you play. You get, the mystery starts to unravel as you play. It doesn't feel that way for Halo Infinite.
Yeah, I think I'm done venting about it. These are all things that I have to figure out how to distill into a script, so that'll be fun. Anything else you want to say?
Nope.
Hit the ad.
We want to give a massive shout out to the sponsors of this episode. They have been silently supporting us since the very beginning, and we felt it was time to give them some love. The like and share buttons have been at our side since episode 1 of the podcast. They can be found just beneath this episode. Please give them a click, it helps us greatly. If you're feeling lucky, click the bell icon to enter for a notification anytime we post new content. You may be surprised by what you get.
Google is deprioritizing Stadia.
Oh shit.
As first reported by Business Insider, Stadia has been demoted by Google, and the platform's focus is now to give a platform to other companies and their experiences/games. Called Google Stream, companies can license Stadia's cloud gaming tech for their own stuff, for their own experiences. Peloton's game Lane Break used Google Stadia. Never played Lane Break.
Google Stream, not
Google Stream. Sorry, I'm gonna assume Lane Break's just a 10 out of 10. I'm assuming it's a tactical shooter. You play on your bike. And
exactly.
Bungie and Capcom were said to have been involved using it somehow. Also, we don't know how Sony's purchase of Bungie would affect that. According to Business Insider, one source estimated the amount of focus given to Stadia's consumer side is about 20%, saying, quote, "There are plenty of people internally who would love to keep it going, so they are working really hard to make sure it doesn't die, but they're not the ones writing the checks." End quote.
I think there's a massive hint in that quote to the future of Stadia.
What's that?
It's they're not the ones writing the checks.
Sure.
And I got the timelines wrong when I predicted it back when Google Stadia was being announced.
Did you?
Yeah, because I gave it like a year and a half, and it's been like 3 years.
Okay.
But like a year and a half of that 3 years has been stagnant, not doing anything, no news about it.
Sure.
And this is the MO for any non-search engine part of Google.
Sure.
This is the start of the death spiral. It is going to be sold soon to someone else, or just dumped off entirely and forgotten about. Because Google got in over their head. They didn't know what they were doing. They decided just to throw money at the problem until it solved itself. But it wasn't an issue of throwing money at it till it solves itself. It was, we don't know because no one solved it yet.
Sure.
And it game streaming doesn't have potential, maybe, but I don't think Google was the right company to head that discovery.
Yeah, I think one thing I would like to mention is I'm basing this off one thing that happened to me a long time ago. I went to the Stadia Reddit a long time ago.
Yeah.
Which like, why? What
Were you able to get your username first?
I went to the Stadia Reddit for no reason, and this is completely unscientific. But there is a thought process that I want to tackle here. I remember seeing, the meme where it's like people playing a video. It's like stick figures playing a video game.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's another stick figure that's like telling them the video game is bad, and they keep playing the game. The stick figure keeps trying to tell them the video game is bad, and at the end, the stick figure is just yelling, "Stop having fun."
Yeah.
You know that meme? Okay, so it's the same thing, but it's Stadia. So the stick figures are playing a game on Stadia, and the stick figure that's yelling at them is like, "Hey, stop having fun," after telling them, "Don't you know you're not getting true 1080p?" Okay, so is there a tendency to dislike Stadia because it's something different? Yeah, I'm sure that exists. But my thing is, when Stadia was unveiled, the message was that this is the future of gaming.
Yeah.
We stream our music. Why can't we stream our games? And that was tone deaf. Because clearly they're completely different mediums with different not capabilities, with different needs, I guess.
Different demands.
And I guess different capabilities, you could say.
Yeah.
And they had a lot of cool ideas. But when you're trying to introduce like a new tech or a new way of playing games and you declare it the future, and we're not even sure if it even works well, and you are putting out pre-orders, and there's like 3 different tiers, and one of them you get first dibs on a name. It's a little, it's annoying, right?
Yeah, very.
Because
extremely.
It's very AAA gaming of something where we're not even sure if it's going to work well, and you already have pre-orders with tiers and a controller and blah, blah, blah. And that's frustrating. So my dislike of Stadia has always been, okay, if this is part of the future of gaming, can we slow down turbo at the conversation that it is the future? Because I just don't know if that's the truth, with the way streaming video is one thing, streaming games is another.
Mm-hmm.
And with the way internet is in the United States and stuff like that, I just don't, there's so much infrastructure. I'm not even sure how to word this. There's so many issues around infrastructure and around data caps and stuff like that. People that don't have those problems or don't have any issues with those things, I think just sometimes get tired of the fact that they exist, so they just don't want to hear about the realities of the situation.
Yeah.
The other thing that I, was really important was what Stadia was going to do with exclusivity. And that ship sailed a long time ago because that doesn't look like they're going to have any exclusive titles. They may have titles that are on Stadia for an exclusive amount of time, but they're not, as far as I know, after they got rid of their internal development teams, there is no more like, this is going to be a made by Stadia developers Stadia exclusive game. Like that's not something that's going to happen.
Yeah.
So, the resistance to Stadia, I don't think is just a stop having fun. It's different, and I don't like it. There are legitimate criticisms. There are criticisms about how they rolled it out. It was very boisterous. This is the future of gaming. It's just like music, which was a mentality that I hated because it completely sidestepped all the practical realities of the situation, and all the worries of the situation, If I'm watching The Office and for whatever reason Cox decide to suck one night, so all of a sudden my internet takes a dump, and so it's like, okay, I can watch The Office and things are going to be a little annoying. But if that happens and I'm 20 hours into God of War 2 and I'm some cutscene, is sucky, like that's completely different.
Yeah.
Or I'm losing frames, so I'm not fighting as well or something like that. It's just not. Those are 2 completely different paradigms. So to pretend that because this is this way, why can't games be that way, is to ignore that they are different paradigms. And when you're ignoring such a huge thing, it makes me roll my eyes and it makes me think that you're jumping into something without really a care to make it better or consider other alternatives. I think xCloud is a much, like, I'm not against game streaming. I think xCloud, I can't wait for xCloud to really take on, or if, I don't know if they've worked it into a subscription service or not, or if it's still in beta. I don't remember. But I think game streaming right now is a great thing to have beside other products. You have Xbox Game Pass. Xbox Game Pass is phenomenal right now. You can download your games, subscription based, whatever, right? And that's what's most important, right? And if you don't want to do that, there's xCloud. It's hopefully soon, which will provide an alternative. But to pretend that streaming is the future right now, that bothers me, because I think it's just trying to jump the gun on something that I don't think is a practicality at the moment. And Amazon Luna is still out there. There are other companies that still have streaming services that they're working on that we don't know a whole lot about. Sometimes it makes me wonder if Stadia thought, hey, why don't we get out ahead of all these dudes and beat Amazon to the punch or something like that. Now, I think Luna may have been announced way after Stadia, but game streaming's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
The idea has been around since like the mid-2000s with the two companies and Sony and PlayStation Now has been around for a super long time. And PlayStation Now is okay. I used it on my PC once. It was like okay. Some games were unplayable, others were okay, and that's what I mean. Like when I buy a game on Steam, if it's unplayable, well, that's just because it's a problem with the game. But at least I know every game sort of should work, and if it doesn't, it's not because of nebulous streaming reasons and things that I can't. At least they're like no concrete reasons. Anyway, so. Yeah, I think that's everything I want to say. We haven't talked about Stadia in a long time.
Thankfully, we haven't. I just want to contextualize one of your points real quick about like music and audio streaming versus game streaming. Right?
Sure.
So one of our podcasts is about 800 megabytes. It's a file size that's 800 megabytes. All right. Cyberpunk 2077 was I'm not entirely sure on Stadia. I know it was. I don't know if it still is. Sure. That's a 71 gigabyte game, all right?
Very big.
That's 90 of our podcasts.
Yeah.
That is almost 2 years of podcasts.
Yeah.
And yes, you're not streaming all, you're not
streaming the 70
all 70 gigs at any one time, but there's a lot that has to be downloaded temporarily because it's not a permanent
would
cache.
Download be the correct word? I don't know the phrase.
Well, it's streamed, but it's going through. It's downloading through your router. The information is going through your router. It's a quote unquote download. You're pulling the information from a server,
as it were.
Yeah,
sure.
So you're doing that 71 gigabyte, like somewhere between 1 and 71 gigabytes, probably closer towards the midpoint, constantly every time you play. One, that's ridiculous for bandwidth. And two, their estimates on how much bandwidth you'd be using was ridiculous. And I don't understand how they could perceive that this would be the future now when maybe a third of the country is on fiber and it's a viable option for that, but the rest of us are still on copper cables.
Oh yeah, I have no idea the numbers off the top of my head.
Yeah, I mean that's just those numbers right there were pure speculation by me. I'm just bitter because I'm still on copper.
Sure. Sure.
And it really seems like a best case scenario, them putting it out. Like all their baselines seemed like it was built on best case scenario ideas.
Yeah.
Not
that's what I mean.
Not actual.
Yeah, it was full speed
realistic.
Ahead,
yeah.
And this is the future right now. Buy your NFTs right now. It was the future. And it was very corporate. It was very eye rolly, and it was annoying because it was like, especially when you had alternatives out there that were so much better. If you're going to call anything the future, it's Xbox Game Pass. Like if you're going to label anything with the corporate "the future" tag, it's Xbox Game Pass.
And you know what Xbox Game Pass is doing for Microsoft?
Killing it,
hemorrhaging money.
Yeah. we don't know. They say they're fine.
Well, Microsoft is fine Because Microsoft has Windows.
That's true. Yeah.
Xbox is a small portion of what Windows does.
Yeah.
Because not only is 90%, if not more, operating systems based on Windows, but you also have most companies using Microsoft Office and schools using Microsoft Office. They can afford to give everyone games for $10 a month and just hemorrhage that money, and it's not going to affect them.
There's going to come a time when that's going to have to stop. You would think, but they have a ton of they say that the numbers are always great with Xbox Game Pass,
and it may offset the cost enough to where it's not
a huge loss,
but it's still a loss on top of consoles being a loss.
Yeah, but I don't know how it works. Maybe it's the same. It may just be the same thing if you buy a game on Xbox Game Pass. There's some shitty microtransaction. You buy, $500 for a hat or something, and then if you do that through Game Pass, I would assume that probably the percentages, whoever gets what cut of whatever, is probably the same thing. I would imagine. So that's probably another great way.
And we have to remember that it's not
working with Game Pass.
It's not money just going to Microsoft. It's the money's being divided between Microsoft and all the people opting into Game Pass. They're also getting paid out from Game Pass.
Like the publishers and whatnot.
Yeah, publishers and whatnot.
Sure.
They're also getting a cut.
Yeah.
So
it's a good deal.
So it's not just I have Game Pass, I'm giving Microsoft $10 a month. It's I have Game Pass. Microsoft probably getting about 60% of that. The rest is going to other people.
Yep.
And that's a massive loss for Xbox or for Microsoft.
Yeah.
But they're able to keep afloat because they have all their other revenue streams.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the reasons why Xbox went full steam ahead with Game Pass, because they could just afford to do it. They didn't have to worry about.
And that's interesting. Sorry, not to cut you off. Go ahead.
They didn't have to worry about keeping up percentages and not running a loss because they have a giant cash revenue on the side. Microsoft, the full Microsoft company, is valued at 10 times of Sony and Nintendo combined. And that's including with Windows, Office, everything that Microsoft owns, their net value.
Not that I don't trust you, but I would love to see a source on that.
I will look it up. It was either it's worth 10 times of those companies or 10 times of those companies combined.
Okay. I mean, it could be. I really have no idea.
Yeah.
They did just buy Activision Blizzard after buying Bethesda.
For $60-something billion.
Yeah,
they just casually dropped $69 billion.
Nice.
Nice.
It was a lot.
Which, I mean, that's just Phil Spencer.
There you go. That's Phil Spency laying down the deals. Give me another Xbox. There you go. Puts on a sick blazer.
We got to get him on the show one of these days.
And he just, he drives up. He's got
he's
got Hot Blooded playing in his Corvette. Hot Blooded man on the scene. He just hops out of walks into All right, guys, what are we doing today? I don't even know.
If we get Phil Spencer on the show, we all have to be wearing blazers.
Phil Spencer next week.
Oh hell yeah.
Okay, I think that's all I wanted to say about Stadia. See, that's the thing, though. It's like we were talking about Stadia. We went into how great Xbox Game Pass is.
because Microsoft did it right and Google did it so wrong that only 20% of their focus is on the consumer side now.
And that makes you wonder what kind of commitment... Because, listen, I don't know Google's financials. I have no idea. But you would imagine if they wanted to keep throwing money at something, they could, Mm-hmm. So if they really believed in streaming is the future of gaming, then wouldn't you keep throwing money at it if that was something you committed and really believed in,
Yeah.
I would think so. But they're not. So, and again, I don't know their financials, so maybe they can't. Maybe Google's, maybe they're on a really tight budget. Save every pencil. I don't know. I imagine not. But anyway, yes.
So I just looked up the numbers, and roughly Sony and Nintendo's net worth combined is about $290 billion. Microsoft is $2.9 trillion.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Wait, they're $1 trillion company?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Apple was the first, right?
Yeah.
Apple was and they became one too? That must have just been recent.
I don't know when, but $2.9 trillion company.
And where is this from?
Macro trends, that's just from Sony for the Sony value. And this one.
We'll just say you have it right.
Well, I mean, yeah, because it's source. There's a link or cited on Wikipedia through
okay.
different business things.
We'll believe it then. We'll believe it. And we'll move on to GTA 6's development is well underway. This announced in a blog post. Rockstar confirmed that the next Grand Theft Auto is being made. Hooray. Reading straight from the post, with the unprecedented longevity of Grand Theft Auto 5, we know many of you have been asking us about a new entry in the Grand Theft Auto series. With every new project we embark on, our goal is always to significantly move beyond what we have previously delivered, and we are pleased to confirm that active development for the next entry of the Grand Theft Auto series is well underway. End quote. There's not a whole lot to say here. Really, it for me. I don't know if you have like an hour long. I hope this is GTA 6. I don't know, but go ahead.
Well, no, I mean they did say that they're working on the next installment or something along those lines.
The next entry in the Grand Theft Auto series.
Yeah.
So we colloquially, I can't ever say that word correctly. Colloquially, I can't say that. Refer to it as Grand Theft Auto 6.
Yeah.
It could be Grand Theft Auto Guardians.
Yeah.
Who knows?
But
there's a little Halo 5 jab there for you. Go ahead.
This feels like them saying, hey, we're done with putting massive amounts of money into GTA 5, and this feels like one of the final nails in the coffin for Red Dead Online.
You think so?
The game wasn't getting any much attention anyway, and if they're already shifting focus to the next Grand Theft Auto entry, they're going to be putting more resources into.
It's already well underway.
Yeah, they're going to be putting more and more resources into that, and they're probably going to let Red Dead Online fade because they already didn't do much for Red Dead 2 Online.
Yeah, last time it was pretty abysmal.
I mean, the game has 4 currencies in it that are mostly all purchasable, as well as
food poisoning,
as well as no private servers, which was in GTA 5. So you think they'd be able to,
Yeah, and that's. So here's my uncomfortability with talking about this stuff: is there's so many things that we don't know.
Yes,
it's like we don't. Okay. We think to ourselves, why can't you just make private servers in Red Dead 2 Online?
Mm-hmm.
That seems so simple. But maybe there's a good reason they don't. And I'm always really cautious about that kind of stuff. The other thing is, why haven't, and I haven't played GTA Online, Red Dead 2 Online in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they fixed the problem with hackers and stuff like that. But even last time I played, it was like a year after it had come out, and hackers were just, you literally could not avoid a hacker.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, Rockstar is a huge company, Take-Two is a huge company, you really can't throw money at this to fix it somehow. Mm-hmm. And again, I never want to overstep my bounds from, I don't really know how these development studios work.
Yeah.
So I don't want to sit here and say, it's easy, do this, when the reality of the situation is more complex. But you would think they'd have the resources to fix some of these problems. Mm-hmm. I don't think your speculation is unfounded though. That they're already moving to GTA 6.
Yeah.
One, how does that impact GTA Online? Is that something that they just keep working on into? Why end that? Why not just integrate GTA 6 into GTA Online somehow? The one thing I'm worried about is, I hope there is a single player component to GTA 6 that has nothing to do with GTA Online. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because that would be really disappointing if some jabroni, douchebag shareholder is like, hey, you guys make a bunch of money. Yeah, some jabroni. I love that word. You guys make a bunch of money on GTA Online. How about you make GTA 6 a single player like GTA Online? And so they have to somehow work in microtransactions in a single player game, and that would suck.
Yeah.
It would suck. And maybe they've already done that with GTA 5, I don't know. But I hope they can keep that split, because like Red Dead 2 was just this incredible story that has to do with America, freedom, justice. It's just, it's so good, right? Mm-hmm. And then GTA Red Dead Online 2, it's like a 12-year-old kid stuffing his face with Oreos compared to like freaking Crime and Punishment. Like, there's the difference, right? You know? And I hope so. Listen, if all these shareholders need another 12-year-old kid shoving Oreos into his mouth for Red Dead 6 or GTA 6 Online, fine. But I hope there's a division between that bullshit and a story that's interesting. Grand Theft Auto has a ton of problems with it. Grand Theft Auto 5 probably hasn't aged well in all areas. Mm-hmm. But its story was interesting.
Yeah.
And I think its satire is probably hit and miss. But I still think you can tell an interesting crime drama, like they have in the past, mm-hmm. and bring it.
Well, I mean, what is Red Dead than a Western crime drama?
Yeah, the distinction always in my mind has been that Grand Theft Auto is a satire of what America is.
Yeah.
And Red Dead is like a satire about how America came to be.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
My point is just like Red Dead is a crime drama.
Oh, yeah, sure. Definitely.
So, I mean, we know that they can continue making really good crime dramas because Red Dead 2 is probably, I'm not going to say probably, it is the best story Rockstar has released.
Yeah, I'd say so. I don't think that's too crazy. And also Red Dead tends to be, Red Dead 2, I think, tended to be a little more on the serious side.
Yeah.
It didn't have as many, like, zany characters, mm-hmm. although it did have some of that here and there. But it was a little more straight shooting.
Yeah.
If you pardon the pun. My second great pun tonight. Hell yeah. Continue, sorry.
But yeah, no, I feel like this is them saying we're done with this generation of games, we're moving on to our next big thing. Because one, they're moving on to the next installment of GTA, and two, Red Dead already didn't get enough love. When online came out, people wanted private servers. It never happened.
Yeah.
Again, logistics, maybe it didn't work out.
Yeah, I don't want to talk out of turn, but it does suck.
But you have the financial backing
That's what you'd think.
to make it happen eventually.
That's what you would think.
Instead of adding 2 other in-game currencies and just sending the community up the river.
Sure. Yeah. All right. Ready? Move on?
Yeah.
Itch.io said something about NFTs on Twitter. Itch.io's official Twitter account said, quote, "A few have asked about our stance on NFTs. NFTs are a scam. If you think they are legitimately useful for anything other than the exploitation of creators, financial scams, and the destruction of the planet, then we ask that you please evaluate your life choices. Also, fuck any company that says they support creators and also endorses NFTs in any way. They can only care about their own profit. They only care about their own profit and the opportunity for wealth above anything else, especially given the now easily available discourse concerning the problems of NFTs." End quote. We've complained a lot about NFTs these past few weeks. And I don't know, chef's kiss? I'm not sure what to...
So I saw something today.
Okay.
In relation to this. An idea called an SFT. A super fungible token.
Okay.
So non-fungible tokens.
Yeah, sure.
The image doesn't change.
Well, okay.
Well, so... People aren't buying the image, they're buying the blockchain, yes. But the token, the T of NFT, is non-fungible. It's a permanent thing.
Yeah, it's a unique, it's a scarce digital item.
Yes.
It's a unique digital item that's like a bunch of computer code that makes it unique.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this person made a super fungible token. The blockchain doesn't change. And you can go to superfungibletoken.com and change the token image at any time.
That's weird. Okay.
Because the information is just breaking it down to very simple terms. The blockchain links to information, like links to a website or links to a server.
Sure. Yeah.
The token is just there for reference, for people reference.
Yeah.
Computers don't need the image. They can see the metadata. They can see the ones and zeros, and they can follow that.
Yeah. If you asked it, yeah, it's kind of like, yeah.
It's the same thing behind image captures where you're clicking, the boats. The boats are there for us. The information stored behind the boats is what the computer sees.
Yeah. And it can't make out that it's a picture of a boat or whatever. At least that's what the idea is.
Yeah. Which is why, it's, anti-robot stuff because
Sure.
computers don't know what information they're looking for.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the idea is you take an NFT, you make it super fungible, and it's virtually the same thing, only you can have it be whatever you want at any time during the day. The guy uploaded it up to, I forget the name of the website that's like the main source of NFT.
Is it
OpenSea? OpenSea.
Yeah, I think it's OpenSea.
He uploaded it. He had a picture of Weird Al on there. He went and changed it to a cat rolling around in money. Had the screen up of the Weird Al one. Refreshed it. It was the cat.
Really?
So again, NFTs are all bullshit. Don't buy into them.
I don't know anything about this SFT. That's interesting. It would be sad if listen. Itch.io is a really interesting storefront. It's probably the most unique storefront of all the PC storefronts. And yeah, I mean, I'm glad that they said something like this. It's nice to see, and listen, I don't follow Itch.io all the time. There's probably things they do I disagree with, whatever, but it is nice to see storefronts like this have some kind of principles. Valve doesn't seem to like that whole NFT thing either.
Even though they kind of use it.
Yeah.
But I guess theirs aren't, exclusive images because I've gotten 12 copies of the same, trading card from Crusader Kings 2 because I played it for over 1,000 hours. I kept getting the same ones over and over, and I just wanted to complete the fucking set, but I couldn't.
Sure. Yeah. But to put it in such black and white terms is nice.
Yeah.
And thank you, Itch.io. That's all I would like to say. Yep. If you don't use Itch.io, go on there. You'll find all kinds of weird, sometimes horny. Definitely, there's lots of horror.
Lots of horny.
There's lots of horror. There's lots of puzzles. There's all kinds of interesting stuff you can find on there. That's free demos. All kinds of cool stuff. And there's also good stuff on there too. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to say everything on there is like weird bad stuff. Like no, there's legitimately good stuff on there. It's a great storefront. I think people should go on there more often. I get lost in like itch.io rabbit holes.
Yeah.
Like every month there's like one day where I start and see what I can dig up and find like some crazy freaking demo that's just and I found there's been some what was the name of the game? It's not I'm not going to remember it, but I showed you and Richard a few weeks ago a game where you play as a skeleton that's a knight.
I don't remember that.
Okay. Well, it was a really interesting game. But yeah, definitely recommended.
Wasn't horny enough to keep my attention.
Okay. We don't have Richard here, but we can play the Tidbits music anyway. A man discusses the news, but not like the big news, the little news. Little bit. This is the Tidbits.
That's it for the Tidbits.
Yeah, and the Tidbits would be like, I'm not gonna make fun of Richard. He's not here. Can I make one joke?
Yeah.
The Tidbits would be like, the wondrous sword online enchanters that was only released in Japan 105 years ago just got a U.S. release for the Sega Saturn
HD remake.
HD remake for the Sega Saturn, and it's a one copy. I'm kidding. We love Richard. We love Richard. We love Richard. We love Richard. The show would suck without him, as you could tell if you listened to the entire thing. Okay, I think we're good. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at the Gaming Discourse. Go to our YouTube channel, YouTube/Gaming Discourse, where we post videos. Go Go check out the Gloomhaven video. Give it a like. Give it a comment. Give it a share. Assault that like button. Assault and battery that like button. And
hit that bell icon.
Hit that bell icon, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.